Good evening, everybody. Coach D here. I am so sorry for all the confusion this week. My dad was put into the hospital again with diverticulitis, and that turned into congestive heart failure. They wanted to put him into hospice. It's almost a 3-hour trip, round trip for me to go see him. And I was kind of pushed into the living situation he's in now based on previous things that have happened over the last 8 months. So we were able to manipulate the system a little bit, and we actually got him. He's now living in a facility 8 miles away from me. So my life is much better. I'm very excited about all that. But that's what took me away from the meeting on Wednesday night, so I apologize. This was kind of just thrown in my lap unexpectedly, and I had to adjust best I could. So today, I promised that I would have something to you by Friday. I was going to do a live event at 8 o'clock tonight, and I just felt that unfair to the people that wanted to go or that are used to Wednesday nights. So I'm doing this recording now, and I'm going to give it to everybody. In the meetup group. There's over 1,000 people in this group. So I'm just going to send it to everybody and allow everyone to hear it and to participate. Okay? So tonight we are going to be reviewing, I'm doing a review on sugar and fat, and I want to give you more detailed information on fat than what you just heard last week. We had a doctor on last week that I shared a recording with you about fat. And it is probably, in my opinion, I can remember the transition in the 50s when everybody was told that fat was good for you. So now, what's going on here? Okay. So now I understand that, and through research, especially the past couple of years, I've been digging into the issue of fat. And fat-free is not the way to go. That's really the bottom line. We should be consuming mostly saturated fats as much as possible, and we're going to go into that tonight. Okay, I'll explain it to you. As far as sugars, I'm going to come right out of the gate. Sugar is bad for you. And what we are doing is focusing on using fat for fuel to give our bodies get up and go and vim and vigor, instead of sugar for fuel, which only puts us on a revolving door cycle of hunger and being satiated and then having these horrible crashes, you know, in a couple of hours. So I'll get into that a bit tonight, okay? To start off, I want to give you a little bit, just a little bit. I'm just touching on this because it's so overwhelming. There's so much information. I just want to start out by letting you know that Kellogg's, Kellogg's cornflakes is what they're known for. They developed cornflakes back in 1898, and they used, but that's where it started. So I'm talking about the processed food industry. So back in as early as 1898, we even had canned foods prior to that. But just the processing of corn into cornflakes started by Kellogg's in 1898. Then deodorized cottonseed oil, which you came to know as Wesson oil. It's another name for that. It's really deodorized cottonseed oil, aka Wesson oil. It came on the market in 1899. And back then, most foods were not processed. And most of our food came from local farmers. So it really was farm to table. And we don't have a lot of that going on anymore. Most of our food back then was considered organic, even though they didn't have an organic label, because they didn't know about synthetic fertilizers or pesticides. They hadn't been introduced yet. So most of what we were eating back in the late 1800s, early 1900s was already organic, okay? It wasn't processed. Cottonseed oil, aka Wesson oil, was actually a waste product from the cotton industry. And it was used mostly in making soap and fuel for lamps. They also, as the doctor explained last week, some of these oils were used for tanning hide, to soften hide, for saddles and boots and things of that nature. It was never meant to be consumed. But as electricity came to the marketplace, cottonseed oil, for example, became harder and harder to get rid of. So what were they going to do with it? So it's been said that cottonseed oil was a waste product in 1860, a fertilizer in 1870, cattle feed in the 1880s, and table food plus other things in the 1890s. That was the progression of just cottonseed oil. And this isn't just with oil. I can go into aluminum products. Aluminum is a waste product that was fluoride was actually a waste product of aluminum, and had the same problem. What do we do with this waste product, this fluoride garbage? Well, hello, somebody invented, and that can be a whole nother show. Somebody invented the decision that we can just get a little, get rid of it a little bit here and a little bit there. We'll throw it in toothpaste, we'll put it in water. We'll tell everybody this fluoride is good for our teeth, and it helps prevent tooth decay. That cannot be farthest from the truth. And I've known that for a very, very long time. So it's also in deodorants. One of the researchers, just a quick sideline, is that our brains today are showing heavy signs of the accumulation of aluminum in our brains, fluoride in our brains. It's a buildup, toxic. So back to cottonseed oil. Cottonseed oil was actually a waste product from the cotton industry. Okay, its use is important to understand, in that cottonseed oil, like other highly processed vegetable oils, are put into a category called polyunsaturated fatty acids, also known as PUFAs, P-U-F-A, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Poly means multiple. Polyunsaturated means that the molecular structure of the oil has double bonds between the atoms in its molecular structure. So these double bonds are vulnerable to attack by free radicals, which causes damage to the molecules. Because these fats are unstable, and because we eat so many of them, these fats end up incorporated into our cell membranes in our body. Our cells become very fragile and are prone to oxidation. If we end up, we end up with all sorts of problems from eating these bad fats, including chronic inflammation, heart disease, strokes, artery issues, kidney and liver issues, and a host of other challenges. Unsaturated fats are typically liquid at room temperature. Right? Saturated fats are they're hard at room temperature. That's the difference. They differ from saturated fats in that polyunsaturated fats, their chemical structure contains one or more double bonds. And they can further be categorized as monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. So these unsaturated fats are either monos or polys. And then you have saturated fats. Unsaturated fats are unsaturated fats that contain only one double bond in its structure. Monounsaturated fats are typically liquid at room temperature. Things like canola oil and olive oil are considered monounsaturated fats, whereas polyunsaturated fats contain two or more double bonds in their structure. They're also liquid at room temperature. These types of fats, these polyunsaturated fats, include things like corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. They're usually from seeds. Saturated fats have no double bonds in their chemical structure. They are saturated with hydrogen atoms. That's what sets them apart. Because of their chemical structure, they have a solid consistency at room temperature. Saturated fats can be found in fats like animal fats, like beef fat, pork fat, poultry fat, and in certain plant oils like palm kernel oil and coconut oil. These are saturated fats. They're in dairy products such as cheese and butter, and unfortunately, also in most processed foods. There's a lot of controversy about saturated versus unsaturated fats, and I'm not going to go into that today because I want to focus on weight, losing weight and getting and staying healthy. But that could be another, 2 or 3 shows to go into the history of saturated versus unsaturated fats. I'm going to right now, however, I'll plan another meetup group on that in the not too distant future, because it is fascinating to understand where food comes from and how it's been manipulated and how we're being not told 100% the truth about these foods. And why is that happening? Because industry thrives on a lot of this stuff. They make a lot of money from it. And some people believe that if we keep you sick, there's big money to be made in the medical industry and in the insurance industry. So it kind of keeps the world going the way it is now. But we can't continue like this because we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So we've got to put a stop to it. So education is key so that you can make informed decisions about your own body and what you want to put into it. I'm going to tonight focus on these fats, what to eliminate from your diet, and which ones to embrace in your diet, and how it can help you to lose weight. The bottom line is that based on current research, saturated fats are necessary in order to prevent disease, promote good health, and allow us to burn fat for fuel and energy. Some of the benefits of ingesting healthy fats that you will come to learn as you go through the program include that these fats assist with mineral absorption, such as the absorption of calcium. They actually help to lower cholesterol levels by boosting your HDL, that's the healthy cholesterol, which more than compensates for the increases in LDL. And I'm going to get into cholesterol because that's a big question I'm often asked when it comes to fat. And you can't measure cholesterol with one number. You've got to look at LDL and HDL separately, and then there's a balance between the two. So if you increase your healthy cholesterol level, your HDL, and then your LDL is also increased a bit, don't panic. It's really a balance between the two. But like I said, I'm not going to get into talking about cholesterol tonight. I can tell you cholesterol is your friend. And we've been led to believe that it's your enemy, but we've also been led to believe that saturated fat's your enemy. And years ago, cigarette smoking used to be good for you. So as we progress in civilization, we learn. And, right now the object is to get the truth out to the public and to start to change these misconceptions about things that we're putting into our body and on our body. But in the future, I will get Dr. Pearson to come on one night and he can talk to us about cholesterol from a medical standpoint. Okay, he'll explain it all to you. He's good at it. He's great at it, actually. But cholesterol is your friend, it's not your enemy. They provide these fats, these saturated fats provide building blocks necessary for cell membranes, for hormone and other similar substances to be produced in the body. They provide optimal brain fuel as these fats are converted into ketones. And then your brain help, brain healthy substances. These fats help with the conversion of carotene into vitamin A. And they also act as carriers for important fat-soluble vitamins, such as vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. These are fat-soluble vitamins. They're used in the body through absorption through fat. They also act, some of these fats, these healthy fats, act as antiviral agents. These fats also serve to fuel our mitochondria. And again, that's another topic for another night. They also modulate genetic regulation and help to prevent cancer. The best benefit, in my opinion, if you're looking to lose weight, is that these fats will help you to feel full and satisfied. It's amazing how awesome a cup of coffee is when it's made with healthy fats. And it's amazing what a cup of coffee does for the appetite. I can have a cup of coffee and go for hours without eating, just be totally satisfied. Saturated fats, the difference also between saturated fats is that they are not oxidized as easily in our bodies because, as other oils are, because they don't have double bonds that can be damaged through oxidation. The old way of eating had us consuming large amounts of omega-6 oils. That's these polyunsaturated oils, particularly the ones that are heavily refined. Most of those oils that are grown, such as corn oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, they are grown in very poor conditions using pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, and other chemicals, either in the fields where they're grown or through the production process. The bottom line is that saturated fats are beneficial for human health and weight control. What you need to do moving forward is to get highly processed and chemicalized polyunsaturated fats, and even mono or saturated fats. You want to be eating these fats organically, and you want to get those chemicals out of your body. Highly processed and chemicalized polyunsaturated fats such as canola oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, vegetable oil, cottonseed oil. You want them out. Okay, what they have to do to those seeds to get oil out of them is unbelievable, just unbelievable. And you don't want to be eating that stuff. You want to replace those nasty oils with good oils, coconut oil, MCT oil, which is a medium chain triglyceride oil, with butter, with animal fat, with avocado oil. I actually made a list here. Let me find it for you. There you go, good fats. So if you're viewing this production tonight, I've got a list of them. You'll see them up on the screen. So again, let me repeat that. So you want to replace the nasty oils with coconut oil, MCT oil, coconut milk, and that's actually good fats. I won't bring that up. We're talking oil only right now. I've got that on my list of butter, animal fat, avocado oil. Olive oil is great, but buy only the best quality olive oil. You want it first cold pressed, and you want it in small, dark bottles. Keep away from the plastic. Okay, small, dark bottles, glass bottles. Buy small quantities and make sure it's first cold pressed. Olive oil is extremely sensitive, and it can go rancid very quickly, very easily. You never want to cook with olive oil either. It is harmful to the body when it's heated. It turns toxic. You may not taste it, but it's there. It's not body healthy. Use it only on cold dishes, salads, and you've got anything cold, if you're, eating bread, I know a lot of Italian restaurants will serve olive oil, and they'll, you can use it for dipping. That's fine. You never want to cook with it. Like I said, it's harmful. If you're going to cook with something, cook with butter or ghee. That's a great alternative. You can cook with coconut oil or avocado oil. You just want to make sure the smoking points on these oils aren't reached. When oil starts to smoke and burn, it's done. You throw it out, it's rancid. It's not good for the body. Okay? I will tell you this also, something I've learned recently. I'm to the point now where I'm not eating oil out at restaurants. So I'm not eating anything that's fried anymore, because most of the oils used in frying are canola, cottonseed, whatever. They're vegetable related. They're these bad, toxic vegetable oils. One of the things that I learned, which we talked about a bit last week, was that these oils actually coat your cells so that nothing can penetrate them. And that's part of the problem. And I'm hearing more and more these days about people that are not absorbing their nutrition. Well, they can't. Your cells can't. If they've become accustomed to eating these putrefied oils, these oils that are not conducive to healthy fat in the body. So if it's coating the cell instead of regenerating and rejuvenating and feeding the cell, then it's harmful. That's one of the reasons we are not absorbing nutrition. So when I eat out now, I want just butter. I try not to eat out that much anymore. It's been difficult the past week because of what I've been going through with my dad. By the time we get home, it's late and I'm exhausted, and we just stop at a restaurant and we'll eat something. But I'm trying to have just salads. I carry around my own apple cider vinegar. I'm going to start carrying around my own olive oil, or an oil that I can use, and I'll put my own on. Why? Because I've also learned that the olive oil industry is extremely corrupt. And I actually was at a restaurant a few days ago, and I asked them, I said, "Is your olive oil pure?" And the guy said, "No, it's not." He said, "It is a blend of olive oil and vegetable oil." So if vegetable oil, if it's manufactured the way it's manufactured through all that we learned last week, then I don't want even a little bit of it. You don't want any of it in your body. It's very harmful. And it's an accumulated effect, so it doesn't go away easy. You've got to wait until the cell is replaced. And that's why going through this program is so beneficial, because it's actually, when you start to burn fat for fuel, you are, you're killing off those bad cells, the cells that are toxic, very similar to the HCG program. And but we're doing it naturally over the course of the long haul, and we're going to stay this way. So this is why I'm an advocate for doing an HCG protocol and then continuing the efforts beyond HCG with this diet, or not doing HCG at all and just this diet, because you'll lose weight, you'll lose those bad cells, you'll lose the toxins, and you don't want them coming back into your body, because they are going to create havoc. I'm living proof of that. And suffering, I've got a few patients that are clients that are suffering from arthritic issues and other different painful issues going on, within the body. Inflammation is huge problem. And that's what happens with these bad oils. They become inflammatory. That's what happens when we consume all this sugar. It's creating an inflammatory environment in our body. And we have to put an end to that. We've got to stop it. So this is a great way to do that. Okay? Around 50%, I love coconut oil, and here's why. Around 50% of the fat in coconut oil is lauric acid, Lauric acid. It's rarely found in nature. Coconut oil has a greater proportion of lauric acid than any other food. Your body converts lauric acid into monolaurin, which is a monoglyceride that can actually destroy many lipid-coated viruses such as HIV, herpes, influenza, measles, gram-negative bacteria, and some protozoa. So it's actually killing these bad things that are going on in the body. It's just coconut oil. So this is why this stuff is so beneficial, very healing to the body. Something also worth bringing to your attention is that normally when you eat a fatty food, it is broken down in the small intestine primarily through the action of bile salts and lipase, which is a pancreatic enzyme. MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, however, are able to bypass this process. And I'm a big fan of medium MCT oil. MCT oil is medium chain triglyceride oil. Comes from coconuts. It's just more concentrated than regular coconut oil. It's tasteless. It's no protein. It's pure fat. I love it. Medium chain triglycerides, however, are able to bypass the process. So let's go back so I make sure that you get this. So MCTs, fatty foods, first of all, fatty foods are broken down in the small intestine primarily through the action of bile salts and lipase, which is the pancreatic enzyme. Remember, you need your gallbladder. Some people have their gallbladder taken out. That gallbladder produces bile, and that bile breaks down fat. This is why people without a gallbladder have to be really careful when they consume fats. However, the MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, are able to bypass that process, and they diffuse across the intestinal membrane and go directly to the liver. Once there, especially if you are in nutritional ketosis, so in fat burning mode, then they are quickly converted to ketones, which are then released back into the bloodstream and transported throughout the body, including into your brain, so that your body and your brain can use that fat as clean burning fuel. So fat for energy, not sweet sugar for energy. That's the switch. That's what we're doing here. Okay, really important to understand that. So MCT oil is actually excellent for people that don't have gallbladders. It's an excellent way for them to be able to process oils. You can also get some digestive enzymes that help. Very important if you're going through this. If you're not into digestive enzymes and you have any kind of digestive issues, I highly recommend that you get some digestive enzymes. And there's something called ox bile, O-X, and then bile, B-I-L-E. And it actually helps the body for people without gallbladders to break down fats in their body. So very helpful if you're doing this. Remember also that when you consume sugar, your body will burn that sugar as its primary fuel source. When that happens, metabolic pathways are activated that will cause a fall in your blood sugar level a few hours after you've consumed the sugar, which in turn will cause sugar cravings and then hunger. And then you get those, what are known as the sugar blues, sugar crashes. And that's the beginning of a vicious cycle. You get hungry, you get sugar, you eat, and then you have these crashes in a few hours. And then you consume some more of these unhealthy foods, you get going, you get hungry again, and then you crash. It's just a vicious cycle that never ends until you stop with the sugar. This is why it's so important to stay away from processed foods. Fat was removed from our diet and replaced with sugar for a reason. We need to stop being a victim and start taking action. We, the consumer, have enormous power. And if we stop purchasing these harmful foods, these corporations will stop producing them. You get everything you possibly can from local sources. Support your local farmer. That's really the best way to eat. Even you know, when it comes to fats and things like that. There's all kinds of places like thrivemarket.com where you can buy this stuff organically, or making sure that it's non-genetically modified and healthy if it's not labeled organic. But there's lots of options today to purchase these kinds of things. Costco, they have an organic coconut oil. Highly recommend it. They also have avocado oil. Highly recommend it. So you can find these things. Start shopping. You'd be amazed. We don't want to be sacrificing our health for something cheap when we can have a little bit. Because, you know, I think that's part of what happens, is that we're so programmed that we have to, you know, eat 3 meals a day, and we consume all of this food. And, you know, what I used to spend, let's say I spent $100 the old way eating non-organic a week on food. Now I might be spending $75 eating organic, eating less, more nutritious food, and not buying all these processed things. And you'll learn with me together. I'm going to get you in the kitchen, let you start seeing some things that you can make that are really easy to whip up. And it doesn't take a whole lot. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. It's just retraining. So much of this is just ingrained in us. I know this Easter, I cooked a ham. I went to the farm. I got a ham that was smoked. It was a little sidetrack here, but it was smoked. It was from a local farmer down the street. He does not have organic status. It's too expensive, but everything he does is organic practices. His pigs are raised out in the wild, in the woods where they belong, and they're eating off the land. They're not slop pigs in a pen, you know, given all kinds of grains and junk. So that's where I got my ham from. Ham is not the healthiest food. It's my favorite. I love ham. I love bacon. I make sure that these things, however, no nitrates when they're smoked. These are humanely slaughtered animals. They are not mass produced. He takes one pig at a time, slaughters it, freezes it instantly, and into the farm store it goes. And he's actually got a little room off the side of his barn with freezers in it, and that's where I buy my meats. Same with his chicken, same with his beef. You can do this. You can find it. There's more and more being available that you can buy it and have it shipped to you. And it's well worth it because you eat less of it, and it's healthy for you. It's good for you. But my other point is that I'm eating less and less and less protein. That's the other thing I've learned. I'm learning about fish, and that we don't need that much protein in our diet. But what we do need are these healthy fats. So, you know, I just recently heard a quote from Julia Childs. If you don't like your broccoli, add more butter. And it's true. You know, just load on the butter. It's really good for you. Just make sure that it's organic and or grass-fed. And you can always, they have grass-fed coming in from other countries now. Ireland, I think Kerry butter is excellent. It doesn't have to be organic. Just check where it comes from. A lot of these countries don't allow the processing that we do here in the States. They don't allow the pesticides and chemicals that we have here in the States. So you can buy, it's like I buy my grass-fed lamb from New Zealand. Doesn't have to be organic. I already know that those sheep are not being fed grains. They're being raised out in the open fields in grass-fed environments. That's what sheep eat, grass. Okay? So you can do this. It's not difficult. That is naturally satiating. So for me, here's another. So I'll have a cup of organic coffee, and I fix it up the way I fix it up. Putting fat in it. I put a little bit of stevia. Sometimes I bought 90% chocolate. 90% dark chocolate. I mean, it's so bitter, it's crazy. And I put a little corner of that in it if I want something as a treat. And put some cinnamon in it and some plant-based. I started to get some plant-based milks instead of dairy milk. Dairy is not, you can eat it. Some of us can tolerate it. I want only grass-fed cow milk. I'd really love it if it was unpasteurized, but it's really not something that we need. Milk was really meant for baby animals, or when we gave birth to our children, mother's milk. But you stopped with mother's milk after 6 months. It's a growth thing that the body needs, and it's good for protecting the body against perils. It builds up your immune system in the child. So after a certain amount of time, they don't need it. So milk is not something that you have to have. Use it sparingly if you're going to use it. Nice. And it's like I said, some of us tolerate it better than others do. But fat is naturally satiating. So I have that cup of coffee made the way I make it, and I'm good for hours, literally hours. Now I'm going through the fasting phase of the program. We'll talk about that next week. So I'm not doing it as much as I was, but right now I'm hungry. And I'm going to go and have a cup of decaf coffee, and it's going to take care of that hunger just fine. And then my body can feed off of the fat cells that are in there that I want to get rid of. And we're cleaning house at the same time. So once you get into fat burning mode, you will realize that fat actually makes your belly feel full. And it enhances the decrease in your desire for food. Okay? It just makes you feel full, and then you don't want to eat. When you are in weight loss mode and in fat burning mode at the same time, as long as you consume small portions of food only once or twice daily, your body will access the stored calories, the calories that are stored in that unwanted fat that has accumulated in your body. The calories that are unavailable to you because in the past you were burning sugar for energy and fuel instead of that stored fat. And that's what we're doing. That's what this is all about. It's so liberating to go for long periods of time without even thinking about food, with having lots of energy, a clear head instead of that fuzzy, sinking thinking feeling, also known as brain fog. To help you get into fat burning mode, keep your carbs low in the beginning. Don't overdo it on protein either. Overconsumption of protein is not healthy and will turn to stored fat just like sugar does. It is healthy fat that you want to consume, not more protein. That's where we're kind of getting off track here with this paleo and these keto diets. It's loaded with protein. And I can tell you firsthand, because I was doing it and not losing weight. Continuing to consume that, mega amounts of protein is not the answer. It's the fat, not the protein, right? Now that I am in this mode, I can feel it in my body already. So I'll keep a log and let you know how the weight loss is going, but I can feel it. I already feel more clear-headed, and I feel like I've lost some weight. Never eat anything processed either. If man made it, don't eat it. All right? When these olive oils and these avocado oils, when they're processed, it's very minimal. You can squeeze olives and you can see the oil come out of them. That's why you want first pressed. That's the first time it goes through the presser. And you want it cold pressed. You don't want to use heat. That's like milk is destroyed from pasteurization. They heat it, they boil it until all of the healthy nutrients are just destroyed. Heat destroys. So stay away from that. So you never want to eat anything processed. So now your daily diet moving forward, now that if you can get yourself, let's start with the sugars. Stay away from all sugars also. So in the beginning, when you're trying to get into this mode, do it slowly. You don't have to do this all, in a day or even in a week. Wean yourself off of sugar slowly. Replace the sugar that you were using with stevia. Okay? Don't use Truvia either. Either because they don't use, when they're processing, again, it's processed by a company that wants to make money. That's what they're into. So they're only using certain active ingredients in the plant. Stevia, you want whole plant stevia. And you can even buy stevia plants and make your own. Again, later. But you want to use organic stevia. And you can go to Trader Joe's, has a very good organic stevia that's very reasonably priced. So look around and stay away from these brand names of stevia products like Truvia. Just whole leaf stevia. That's what you want to use. Okay? So as you start to wean yourself off of the sugars, replace those sugars with fats. All right? And I put the list up here of good fats. So you want coconut oil. Coconut milk is very good. MCT, that's the medium chain triglyceride oil. Remember, it's coconut oil, but it's more concentrated than regular coconut oil. Use avocado oil. Use extra virgin olive oil. First pressed, cold pressed. Use butter or ghee. Make sure it's organic and or grass-fed. And grass-fed, just because it says manufactured in the United States and it says grass-fed, I don't buy it unless it's organic in the U.S. Why? Because you can have a cow out in fields that have been sprayed, and I don't want the chemicals. So whatever that cow eats, and if you eat that cow or the cow's product, you are consuming the same chemicals. All right? So get imported. Bacon or other animal fat like chicken or duck fat, exceptionally good for cooking. You know, if you want to change the pace, and I saved my bacon fat, I boiled beef bones the other day and skimmed that fat off the top. I actually went to a restaurant in Philadelphia that used the fat from beef to burn candles. They just stuck a wick in the fat and in a candle holder, and it burned. And that was their way. They were really into the farm-to-table stuff, utilizing the entire animal. And I was quite impressed with them. So use bacon or animal fats. Make sure that these animals are pastured organic if you buy them from the United States. Pastured organic. You want them in fields that are not sprayed, eating what cows and chickens and ducks eat. And that's, you know, the nutrients from the grass. They eat insects, bugs. They're healthy. All right? Then the carbs that you want to consume to get you into fat burning mode and really train your body to burn fat for fuel instead of sugar, in the beginning, until you're really in that ketonic state, you want to eat plenty of leafy greens of all types, including spinach, kale, all the different lettuces, salad greens, things like that. Consume as much as you want till you're full. Don't, you know, this isn't a starvation diet. And it's not, you want something that you can do for life. That's what this is all about, okay? So when you're consuming your meal, you eat as much as you want and feel full on asparagus, avocados, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, cucumbers. Make sure if you're eating cucumbers, you remove the skins and take out the seeds. I'll explain why later on there as well. You want to eat mushrooms and zucchini. These are all good vegetables to eat. Okay? I'll leave this list up there for a little bit so you can see it. Once you're in fat burning mode, then what you can do is add back some of the other vegetables, but in limited quantities. And these are things that have higher carb ratings than low carb foods. But you want to make sure, you've got to get your body into fat burning mode. So first, the greens, the asparagus, avocado, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, cucumbers, mushrooms, and zucchini are great. And then once you're in fat burning mode, in limited quantities, and you'll know. You'll be able to tell if you're hungry. Somebody had asked me the question, how do you know the ratio of protein and fats that the average person should be eating for each individual? Well, it is very individual, hard to say, but I can tell you, keep your protein to a minimum. If you are weaning off of sugar, go ahead and eat some added protein. Protein portions, however, should be about the size of a deck of cards. That's a good way to just generalize. You're safe in that mode. And then for fats, when you're trying to get into fat burning mode, and even later on when you're using fat for fuel, if you find yourself craving fats, add some more fat to the diet. Sometimes I will crave fats. What I do then is I'll take some MCT oil in my beverage and I have it that way. And the craving goes away immediately. All right. So the next list is, once you're in fat burning mode, you can add the following in limited quantities back into your diet. That's eggplant, garlic, onions, parsnips, peppers, rutabaga, tomatoes, winter squash. You can have some berries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, but in very limited quantity, and a few sections of grapefruit a day. Okay? So those you can add in later on, not right now. And it's eggplant, garlic, onions, parsnips, peppers, rutabaga, tomatoes, winter squash, berries, and some grapefruit. Stay away from all sugars except stevia. Okay, remember that. Stevia is great. You don't want to overdo it on stevia either. Get used to eating foods in their natural form. And then, keep in that mode for the next week. And then next week, I want to start talking to you about fasting. And once you're in fat burning mode, it becomes super easy to fast. You'll have amazing health and weight benefits as a result of it. And I'm going to spend a couple of weeks talking about fasting because that's another controversial topic that's gone back and forth between being good and not being good. And I think the research is finally proving it's a good thing. So I'll explain the best way to do it for the optimum benefits, and I'll share with you how my week has gone. I've really gotten into fasting mode. I eat daily, but I'm going 20 hours without eating now, and I'm not hungry. Okay? By the time I'm to 20 hours, I'm ready to eat. But I'm focusing on eating leafy greens and avocados and asparagus, the foods that I gave you in the list that are showing up on the screen now. That's what I'm focusing on. All right? And much less protein and all the healthy fats. Until next week, I want to thank everybody for being on the call. And I hope you found this beneficial, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.